Welcome to the latest episode of Unfiltered Conversations. I'm your host, Ryan McNeil. A couple of weeks back, I was out with a buddy, heard Olivia Harms live in concert, and it was great to be able to now connect with her and dig a little deeper into your story. So, Olivia, the first question I have for you is, how did you get started in country music? I know your mom is a country music artist. I'd love to hear how you got started with country music.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first I want to say thanks for having me on, Ryan. I'm excited to chat with you. My mom was a musician all her life. That's all she's ever done. And she actually had labor induced to get to a show because I was still hanging out. And she's like, look, I've got a gig on June 15th. Oh gosh. You can hear my dogs in the background. They go everywhere with me. So I'll try to tell my kids to be quiet. But yeah, she had labor induced, speaking of kids, and got to a show because I arrived on June 13th. So 2 days later on June 15th, she had me and took me out on stage and said, look, folks, this is what I did a couple days ago. And I really have been traveling with her ever since. So, I mean, I always wanted to do music. That's all I'd really ever dreamt of doing. Santa Claus brought me a guitar at 9 years old. So I started playing guitar, and then I started writing songs, and then I would, play them for my friends and family, whoever was kind enough to sit and listen to me for a little while. And then start booking gigs. And I mean, I always traveled with my mom and kind of got the self-confidence of learning how to play or just be in front of a crowd from her, because I just would go up and do a song or two at some of her shows whenever I went with her. And so then when I started doing my own shows, I had like a little bit of a leg up, but it's still different being on stage with mom. If I was to mess up, she's right there and can save the day. But when I'm up there by myself, I had to get used to just being able to carry it on my own instead of relying on her. And so I credit her with a lot. She definitely taught me and mentored me a ton. But I did have to kind of get past just always being with her on stage and start, being okay with being up there by myself.
My family has a weird saying. Started with my dad's dad, so my grandpa. He would say at times, "Oh, yeah, look what I started." And it was in jest, but it was kind of an amazement on his behalf of how his lineage and just how his life has been unfolding in his kids and his grandkids. Right. Have you and your mom had some moments where she's kind of like, wow, look at what my daughter's doing. Look at how this come full circle, all that kind of great family connectivity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, she says stuff like that to me all the time, or she'll say, boy, you really are like a carbon copy of who I was when I was 26 or 27. And she said, you're doing a lot of the same things that I was doing. It's just really cool to share the passion of music with her, because she totally gets it. Not to say that other people don't, but I mean, when you have someone who's been through the ups and downs, they know what it's like to celebrate a win, but they also know what it's like when you're going through something or you're just having a rough day. Nobody can get it like she does because she's been through it. And so, I mean, I think sometimes she says, boy, look what I started, like, I'm sorry that I gave you this, like, it's I love it, but it's almost a joke. Music is almost a curse sometimes, because it's not like a job that I could just say, okay, I'm going to move on to something else. My soul is totally connected to music. And so if I gave it up, I wouldn't be myself anymore. So it's not just a job. It's kind of a part of who we are, which makes it that much more like of an investment when you're out here trying to make it work.
Right now you're traveling all over Texas. And before we get into that, I think you said at your concert, you spent some time living in Nashville. If that's correct, were you songwriting?
Yeah.
Were you performing? What was your time in Nashville like, and how did that help you grow as an artist?
It was great. I have nothing but good things to say about Nashville. I was kind of a Nashville commuter, if you will, for like 4 years. I would go back for a couple of weeks. I'd write, play, mostly focused on songwriting, but I played writers' rounds and stuff whenever I could. And then I would go back to Oregon or the Northwest, and I would play. And so it was a way for me to kind of make a living playing music, but also have a big presence in Nashville. Because I've always thought, you know, I'd rather be a big fish in a small pond, which is what I was able to do in the Northwest, versus being in Nashville, where you're a tiny fish in a big pond. And, you know, it would have been a lot more difficult for me to get back to those paying gigs in the Northwest if I was to say I'm going to move full time to Nashville. Not that I wish that I could have done that, but it just is, there's no real big paying gigs there. And so you'd have to get a part-time job, which would then limit my ability to travel. So I did this commuting thing for quite a while, really worked on my catalog of songs, you know, really kind of almost had like the college years of songwriting, because I was able to learn and get taught on how you have to have a hook of a song. You have to have, you know, kind of a 3-minute time frame for advertising and radio ready songs. So it was a great way to learn. And then after a while, I kind of tried in Nashville a little bit to see if things would happen, but most of the offers I had to get a record label or something like that behind me was usually to say, let's make you a Kelsey Ballerini Jr. or you know, a Carrie Underwood Jr. And there's nothing wrong with that kind of music at all. It's just that that's not me. And so I said, I would rather do it the hard way. And even if I don't become as successful at it, at least I know I'm doing it the Olivia Harms way, which is, you know, what I was put on this earth to do. And I'm not going to pretend I'm somebody else. So it was a really good learning experience. And then I just kind of said, you know what, I've always loved playing music in Texas. So this Oregonian is going to start traveling around in Texas, and it's been great. I've loved it.
And I want to dig into that because that part of your story resonated with me. I'm Canadian. I'm from Toronto area. I've been in Texas since March the 7th. So as we're recording this, it's been less than a month when I heard you on stage to when I moved to Texas. So you were telling your story, and I hope I don't get this wrong, but you went back and you told your dad, hey, I'm going to go to Texas. I'm going to live out of my RV, I believe. Had to take my 2 dogs with me. I'm just going to perform much as I can. I hope that's correct. And if it's not, correct to me.
Yes.
What was that like? Because I'm sure your mom was there as well, and she helped out, explain to your dad that passion, it's in your blood, all that kind of stuff. Having your mom with her experience definitely helps. But when you're sitting down your dad,
absolutely,
dads are so protective of their daughters. What was that like?
Well, you know, I mean, they know how passionate I am about what I do. So I think it wasn't a huge surprise because he's been, you know, married to my mom for 32 years and he knows kind of what it's like to have to just trust that, you know, you can't worry all the time while someone's on the road because it's not going to do any good. So you just have to, you know, trust God and, you know, like know that everything's going to be fine and it's all going to work out. But I had this idea because I was doing a lot of driving around Oregon and the Northwest. And as soon as my album came out last May, I had all these requests from people saying, please come play more music in Texas. And, you know, I've played in Texas before. Usually I fly down and do a couple gigs and then I'll fly back home. And I was thinking, yeah, I mean, my music does fit really well in Texas. That's primarily what I listen to is red dirt country. And so while I was doing all this driving, I was thinking, how on earth am I going to spend more time in Texas? Because I have 2 dogs. I mean, like, if you're going to go down there, I don't want to have to rent a car and drive all around. I don't want to have to be hopping from one hotel room to the next. And if I go down there for a period of time and I'm going to be by myself, I certainly want to have my dogs with me so I don't feel like I'm totally alone. And so I kept thinking, how am I going to do this? You know, like, this is not really an easy problem to solve. And then I just had this great idea to buy a travel trailer because I already have a pickup. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll just buy a travel trailer and I'll live out of it. And then I can just drive it from place to place, always have a place for my dogs, have all my stuff with me, and, you know, kind of just live this traveling gypsy lifestyle. And so I thought about it for a little while. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to talk to my dad about it. Because that's the turning point, right? I mean, I don't have to have his approval, but it sure helps. So I sat him down and I said, I have an idea and I think it's actually pretty good. I know it sounds a little far-fetched, but I want to buy a trailer. And I gave him the spiel and he said, okay. You know, I don't think he was super thrilled with it at first. He said, we're going to have to start looking. I'm so sorry. We have
That's
someone
okay.
walking by.
So
Well,
like
hi.
you,
I don't know if you can see
I
my
had
in
to
the back,
come to Texas
but
with my dog buddy. So I totally get it. I'm waiting for him to howl at somebody outside, but he's sleeping right now. I totally get it.
okay. Well, thanks for hanging in there. Yeah, Elmer and Luna are my buddies. They're little rescue cow dogs. And Elmer's a pretty good sport, but sometimes he doesn't like bicycles. And we had a bicycle go by. And so that'll set him off. You know, we all have our things that we don't like. And for Elmer, it's bicycles. So that's okay.
How long have you been touring Texas, and what are some things that stick out from your time touring, and what are some memories you've made?
I started and I left Oregon in September of 21. And so I went down to Texas. I was here for probably 3 months, got home just like the end of November. And then I decided that I was going to do it again because the first run was so successful that I said, okay, well, I'll do like a spring run. And so I got down here like the end of February, and I'm on the road until like mid-May or so. And then I figured, I really am not good at the humidity. So this is something we'll have to chat about again later, see how you deal with the humidity. Because being from the north, like we're used to heat. We get some heat in the summertime, but the humidity is like totally different. And so I thought maybe since I have the trailer, like I won't do a full commit like move yet. I can just do like a central US and then go back to the Northwest for a little while. And then I'll come back down, September, October, November, and I'll like do that whole thing again. That way I can kind of get the best of both worlds. So that's like the outline of how long I've been doing it. And then to answer the second part of your question, there's so many great memories that come with it. I mean, like living on the road, I don't think I was like, I can't say I was like shocked to see how many nice people are, but at the same time, there's like it is shocking, like especially here in Texas, there's so many people who are just willing to open up their homes and say, come stay at my house. If you just need an extension cord, like we'll give you an outlet. Like they are so welcoming and so happy to help however they can. And that has just been amazing. I've met so many great people that I just like feel like I've adopted into my little family on the road, because I feel like now I have all these friends all over Texas that I can call up and say, hey, I'm coming through. Do you mind if I park my trailer? And I get to have like this adventure along with loving the travel and, music, because I just get to have all these amazing new connections. And so the memories that I have made with all these new friends, I think is my favorite, because there's no way I would have ever met them if I didn't live in a trailer.
I really enjoyed you in concert, and this was great to connect with you and hear more about your story. Maybe I share that with my listeners. So thank you for your time today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me and hanging in there with my crazy dogs and everything else. But I've really enjoyed it. So thank you, Ryan.